So with checkbook control, though, they lose the deposit. Where's that money now? It's in your bank account. So even if you're between deals, at the custodian level, between, they have enough investors that are between deals at any given time, they may be sitting on billions of dollars on which they're earning interest. And if it's a custodian that's affiliated with a bank, right? A bank sits on $1 billion of cash, they can create $10 billion in loans, right? Because of fractional banking. So it's incredibly valuable to them to have the cash. And with the checkbook control, the cash goes off their balance sheet and into your bank account.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke. And today we have Bernard Reisz. Bernard is the founder of 401k Checkbook.com, which gives investors direct control of their tax-sheltered funds for real estate equity and debt opportunities using Checkbook Control IRAs, Solo 401ks, and Checkbook Life Insurance. He's also the founder of agentfinancial.com, which provides tax and financial services to real estate professionals, including real estate agents and mortgage brokers. How you doing, Bernard? And thank you for joining us on the show.
Dwaine, doing great and really glad to be on the show with you and looking forward to a great episode.
Absolutely. I understand we talk a little pre-show. You're in New York and I'm in Connecticut. We're practically neighbors. So good to meet a fellow New Yorker out there and look forward to our discussion. We had kind of talked a little bit about I work with a lot of investors and the question of self-directed IRA comes up a lot, especially investing in passive investment opportunities. But before we kind of dive a little bit deep into that, can you kind of touch on a little bit about your background and a little bit about your company?
Glad to. By way of background and training, I am a CPA and a tax strategist. And my philosophy is that everything has to be approached holistically and in an integrated manner. So whereas in the financial and tax advisory space, people generally get very siloed services. So you've got financial advisor, CPA, life insurance salesman, your retirement plan provider. Any particular individual may have an entire cadre of cooks that are getting their hands in the broth. But if you want an optimal solution, an optimized solution, the way you have to run this is you've got to take control and you've got to be an educated consumer and ideally work with professionals that have that same approach, that recognize that, hey, I don't have my own silo. We've got to have a good working knowledge of everything and bring it together.
I kind of like that approach because you mentioned holistic and kind of control. Could traditionally, kind of the mantra as you get a financial advisor or if you have a regular job, you have a 401k where the company is kind of managing your finances for the future. And a lot of times this self-directed IRA concept starts coming up in the real estate investing world where people are starting to take control of where their money is going and they're able to kind of contribute to that. But the thing that was most interesting to me is this concept of checkbook IRA, which I kind of mentioned into the intro. Can you kind of touch on what that is exactly and kind of run through some of the benefits for investors and potential clients?
So that's a great question. And that checkbook IRA concept or checkbook 401k, checkbook QRP is about taking self-direction to an entirely new level. And it allows you to have direct access to your tax-sheltered money in a bank account that you control. So you've got a deal, you just fund the deal. You have to act quickly. So in the traditional self-directed space, the money and assets are held by a custodian. And for every asset that you'd like to get invested in or every transaction, you've got to do all the paperwork and then submit all the paperwork to the custodian. You've got to do the custodian's paperwork along with it. The custodian will then review the two sets of documents that they've received from you. They've received kind of the paperwork, their own custodian paperwork that's supposed to direct them to process the deal docs. So all the deal docs will actually be reviewed by you, signed by you, and then sent to the custodian for countersignature. The custodian reviews that, and once they're finished processing that, they will fund the investment for you. Naturally, that process takes time, and it costs money. So with the checkbook control, you get that money in a bank account, no need for the custodian signature, no need to do any custodian paperwork, and the deal gets funded instantaneously.
So kind of you are more put in the driver's seat for that one, the checkbook side. Is there any additional oversight, or so you're pretty much in the lane and you have to submit stuff to the IRS, or are you working with the custodian to be in the regulatory sense? Is any oversight, or are you really in control of how you do that? You just got to make sure you do it the right way.
So the answer is, let's do the short version and the long version. The short version is that there's there are no IRS filings whatsoever. Certainly no more IRS filings because you've got the control. But the longer version is that there are rules that apply to IRAs and 401ks regarding how the money can be used. So most people are shocked to learn that they can get involved in a private real estate investment with a 401k, QRP, or IRA. But once they learn that, they also need to know that there are limitations. So although the limitations that you thought existed are not true limitations, you can get involved in just about any kind of asset class and investment that you'd like. There are certain things that you cannot do. And those are, can't use the money for any personal needs. It's got to be investment only. And within the investment world, even though you can buy real estate, you cannot buy real estate from yourself. So say your IRA cannot buy real estate that you personally own. So there's a big world out there, lots of real estate that it can buy, but if you own it or it's owned by your parents or children, then your IRA cannot do business with those people. So there are these set of rules known as prohibited transaction rules. So when the money is at a custodian, before they actually fund the deal, they want to protect themselves. That's their main agenda. So they're going to have paperwork that's going to ask, okay, is this real estate that you're buying, is it owned by you? Yes or no? And if you write yes, then they won't fund it. If you write no, then they'll fund it. Of course, you can write whatever you'd like, but at least this way, the custodian has protected themselves, and it also provides you with a measure of protection, because if you're going to complete that paperwork accurately, if there's anything glaringly wrong, the custodian will say, we can't do this. So the custodian will have standard paperwork that will ask, all right, is this a real estate that you personally own? Is it owned by your parents? Is it owned by your children? Is it owned by your spouse? And if it's no to all the above, the custodian goes ahead and funds it. But if you've got the money in a bank account, there's no custodian paperwork, and so it's on you. You can theoretically go out there and do a deal with yourself. You can have your IRA buy real estate that you own. Trouble is, if you do that, you have just essentially broken your IRA. So there is the short version is there's no additional IRS filing. However, you have to be more cognizant of the rules, because there's no custodian paperwork that's going to catch that for you.
So what would be kind of obviously the differences between the traditional custodian and you doing it? Why won't more people go, checkbook route compared to the other? Is there any type of involvement that's on you? Besides from you overseeing the whole process and make sure it's doing right, so you don't break your IRA. What's kind of the difference between both, and why don't people just do checkbook IRA more so?
So there definitely are many investors taking each particular route. Within the self-directed space, checkbook control is lesser known. And ironically, for some of the same reasons why you may not know about using real estate in an IRA until you get introduced to self-directing world, The checkbook structure is kind of this somewhat under wraps within the self-directed world for many of the same reasons, because IRA custodians, they've got a business model, right? It's not the same business model as the Wall Street firms, but they also have a revenue model. And in that revenue model, they collect fees for holding assets and processing transactions. Now, with Checkbook Control, they're not processing any transactions. Now they either have to lower their price or somehow raise their prices, but then you have customers wondering what's going on here. You're not doing anything, so why are you charging this much? So it's harder for their business model. They're definitely not going to encourage this. Likewise, and you think if you put yourself in the shoes of a financial institution, the value of holding on to billions of dollars of deposits is just astounding, right? A bank, so anybody that runs, if you have any experience in an insurance company, the bank, deposits are extremely valuable. So at each individual's level, we may tend to forget, okay, all right, I'm not going to go out there and find who's paying me, 1 basis point higher. But when you're a financial institution and that's multiplied across billions of dollars, that is extremely valuable. So with Checkbook Control, though, they lose the deposit. Where's that money now? It's in your bank account. So even if you're between deals, at the custodian level, they have enough investors that are between deals that at any given time, they may be sitting on billions of dollars on which they're earning interest. And if it's a custodian that's affiliated with a bank, right? A bank sits on $1 billion of cash. They can create $10 billion in loans, right? Because of fractional banking. So it's incredibly valuable to them to have the cash. And with the Checkbook Control, the cash goes off their balance sheet and into your bank account.
Very interesting. Can you kind of touch on the other programs you had mentioned before, like QRP and things like that, and maybe just kind of explain what that is for the audience as well?
Yeah, we got to do that because I find talking to people about this daily, there tends to be quite a bit of confusion. So some people have a really down pat QRP, 401k, IRA, defined benefit plan, simple IRA, SEP IRA. But for some people, it all seems as like one big alphabet soup, one big jumble. And it's important to understand what the distinctions are. And these distinctions are not so unique to the self-directed space. It's really understanding what these are, regardless of what you're investing in. So the two key categories to think of are QRP, which stands for Qualified Retirement Plan, and IRA, which stands for Individual Retirement Arrangement. Now, QRP comes in many flavors. You can have a 401k plan is a type of QRP. A defined benefit plan is a type of QRP. Cash balance plan is a type of QRP. Within IRA, we've got traditional IRA and we've got Roth IRA. So these are two broad categories of plans. And there are very important distinctions between them. And so let's just narrow it just to kind of get to the chase and what's applicable within the real estate space. Have you familiar with QRPs, 401ks?
No, not that detailed at all. Just kind of like the basic, like what it is. But yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about that. I'm pretty sure all of the listeners will be interested to hear that too.
So let's take it away. QRP within the real estate space is generally referring to using a 401k plan. 401k is a type of QRP, and that's what is an incredible fit for real estate. And 401k is a term that I think most Americans are familiar with. Anybody that's had a job, at a company, be it small business, mid-sized business, certainly a large business, has had a 401k plan. And that's the best QRP for real estate, provided the 401k plan allows it. So in most companies, the 401k plan is not going to allow you to invest in real estate because it's costly administratively to allow it. And it's usually run by a financial advisor, right, who is making money by having the plan restricted to investing in the assets that they make available to you. They make you that menu, you choose from that, and they collect a fee.
Mm-hmm.
But you can create your own QRP, your own 401k plan, and then put that money into real estate. But to have a QRP or 401k plan, you've got to have a business. So just as your employer has a 401k plan, because there's a business, if for you to create your own 401k, you've got to have a business. So the checkbook QRP, checkbook 401k, more or less synonymous, is almost always going to refer to a 401k plan that's designed for an owner-only business.
Is there any type of requirements besides that? I mean, the kind of the plumber that may have like an assistant. I mean, you just have to like have a minimal amount of employees, or setting up a revenue, or what's involved in there?
Awesome. So we're looking for people that actually have no employees other than the business owners, no full-time employees. Because the moment they've got other employees, while we could set up a 401k plan for them, we're going to have to include the employees in that 401k plan and give the employees the ability to invest in real estate as well. And now it can get kind of costly to maintain that plan. Whereas if we've got the owner only, there is almost no maintenance to be done. And all they've got to really be educated about is prohibited transaction rules. They get the money in the bank account, and it's extremely cost effective. So generally, we're looking for somebody that's got a business, but does not have full-time employees. But you may be asking, what's a business? How much revenue do they have to have? How much income do they have to have? And, people say, I'm concerned, this is not a business. I'm doing this for a while now, but I'm not making money yet. And to that, my response is, have you ever heard of Uber? Have you ever heard of WeWork? Tesla?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think Tesla just showed a profit for but generally, right, these are some of the largest companies, some very large companies that don't have profit. So technically, there's no requirement that you have profit. However, what is required is that you're doing something with some measure of consistency for the purpose of generating profit. That's what's required to have a plan. But yes, if somebody comes in and looks at this business and the IRS says, hey, you've never shown a profit in 10 years, the IRS may say this is not really a business. Is it necessarily so? No, it can be a business. You can be a business and not make any money and not have profit. But it doesn't look right. So obviously when you're dealing with something on the scale of Uber, that's clearly a business, even if they're not profitable. But if you've got something that doesn't look like a business and doesn't have profit, that may not look right. So you don't need profit. You've got to be engaged in a trade or business for the purpose of earning a profit.
Okay. That makes sense a lot. Okay, perfect. All right. So what about the other one?
IRA.
Yeah.
Right. So on the IRA side, anybody can have an IRA because it stands for individual retirement arrangement. It doesn't have to be tied to a business. And you can roll money into an IRA. So a lot of what you're doing here is finding the right plan for yourself, and then consolidating your funds. So if you have an old employer 401k plan, you'll be able to roll that money into an IRA and fund your real estate within the IRA. So IRA contribution limits are $6,000 per year. A 401k plan, you could theoretically put in $56,000 or $62,000 per year. So you can get to much higher dollar amounts inside of a 401k, but the investments can be done either in an IRA or 401k because you can just roll the money between them, depending where you can get your self-direction, and consolidate your funds there and then do the investment that way. So the IRA is something that anybody can do, while the QRP, is going to be for lots of people, but at the same time, lots of people should not be doing a QRP because to have that QRP, you've got to have the business with no full-time employees that are not owners.
Okay. And what about kind of I don't know if this is relevant at all, kind of like Roth and Simple, and is there any difference between those and so? Can you kind of quickly explain that?
let's talk. Roth is kind of like your regular IRA, but it's after-tax money, which is never going to be taxed again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, within a 401k or QRP, so the ones that we create have, and that's one of there are many advantages to QRP over IRA. But again, it's about getting the right plan for you. It's about, as an investor, think about what is going to be the best one for me. Don't chase after the shiny features and bells and whistles, because from a compliance perspective, if it's not a good fit, you don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a bit about the 401k includes a Roth component within it. So you can have a single plan that has both traditional and Roth. But in contrast, in the world of IRAs, you've got to have either a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. You can have both, but they are two separate accounts. And they don't mix. So on the IRA side, you're either have traditional or Roth. On the 401k side, you can have both within a single plan, and you can be able to contribute $56,000 potentially to either one. So if anybody actually appreciates Roth, the 401k is great because our plans are structured to allow you to get up to $62,000 of Roth per year. Dwaine, are you a fan of Roth IRAs?
Whichever, well, again, it depends on the situation, right? So, I mean, I'm a business owner, so,
that's really the right answer. I know people hate hearing it depends, but, when you think of all the moving parts, there are no, rules that are hard and fast. So Roth is going to appeal most, being that Roth money is money that will never be taxed again. So you definitely, if you've got an investment that you think is going to do particularly well, you want to put that under the Roth. Because if you can turn that principal into a whole lot of money, you never want to be taxed on that ever again. But if you've got an investment where the returns, are not necessarily going to be that high, then traditional may be preferred.
And what about kind of like people who are constantly investing in syndications, maybe partial ownerships, or it's kind of like small, different type of investments? Would you kind of just say, all right, this is kind of my strategy, then you go backwards and say, this is the type of best plan for you? Or can you even change it? Or it's like, once you choose it, you can't change it again?
You can change it to an extent. So it's very important up front to get things set up optimally. So there are certain things you can change and certain things that you can't change. But the ideal is get it set up right. And this way, hopefully you won't have to have too many changes, or if it's set up right, you'll have the greatest flexibility. So let's talk about the people that are doing the passive investment, and they're doing multiple deals. So those folks, now for anybody that we generally want to do the 401k because it has the greatest flexibility. You don't need a custodian involved. You can get a loan if you'd like. So while you generally can't use anything for personal reasons, if you've got your own little 401k, you can take out a $50,000 loan to use for anything that you want. So there are a lot of, the 401k is generally the way to go for those that qualify. For those that are not a good fit for the 401k, then you've got the IRA side. Now, a Roth IRA cannot be rolled into any other type of plan. So Roth IRA is the one type of retirement account that kind of gets siloed. It cannot be rolled to 401k. Even for our 401ks that have the Roth sub-account, you cannot roll a Roth IRA to a Roth 401k. Now, the question they may want to be asking is, if we're in the world of IRAs, do I want a self-directed account, or do I want to take that, up the ante a bit and go for that checkbook control? Now, for somebody that's going to have one investment, kind of a one and done, you just do the self-directed because, it's simpler. You just have the custodian fund that, and you forget about it. However, the moment you start going beyond having a single investment, you want to think about doing the checkbook control, because custodians, the way they structure their fees is each asset is another fee. So while you may set it up a custodian and say, hey, this is one thing, one fee, the moment you have multiple investments, you'll see it's going to start costing you a lot more than you thought it would, and you'll be better with having the direct control, and then that'll actually save you money and give you a greater level of control. And likewise, if you're open, if you're thinking, hey, I'm not sure what I'm going to do here long term, I want to get the control. I'm starting to dabble in real estate, but I may want to do some of my own deals. Maybe, do a syndication, but maybe I'll do a private loan. Maybe I'll buy a rental.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll want to have the control, because the control is going to give you all those options. So it'll really vary from investor and for investor. But if you're doing a one and done, just get yourself a plain self-directed account. If you think you may be doing more than that, you want to get that total control.
That makes sense. Yeah, that answers a lot of questions. And for the one that you're working with the custodian, they also have the annual fee. Is that eliminated once you have the checkbook control?
So you're always with the checkbook control on the 401k side, you don't necessarily need a custodian at all.
Gotcha.
On the IRA side, you've got to have a custodian of some sort. So the custodian will always be there. However, if you work with somebody that has the experience in this space and has relationships, you can get that custodian fee down to something that is absolutely nominal. Because these custodians have, they've made a decision. We're going to work with certain partners. They're going to give us, refer to us, and we're not really doing much here because we know the clientele here is going to have that control. So we're just signing off the paperwork once a year. So they'll give you rock bottom pricing, but it does stay. The custodian is always there. There will be an annual fee, but it'll be much, much, much lower than what you would otherwise pay.
Mm. And kind of switching a little bit, as far as kind of like the things that you can do with both the traditional custodian IRA and your checkbook, you can partner with a spouse, partner with other investors to get into stuff. I know that kind of gets into the parts of disqualified persons and stuff like that. Maybe you can touch on that as well.
These are great questions, and some of them have very clear answers, and some of them, you're treading into gray areas.
Mm-hmm.
So other investors that are not related to you, go partner with them. That's every syndication. You're going in as an LP. That's exactly what you're doing. Where it gets dicey is if you want to partner with yourself or some other disqualified persons. Mm-hmm. So the disqualified persons are those people we referenced earlier. You're looking at parents, spouse, children. Not everybody that you're related to is a disqualified person. Your friends are not disqualified persons. Your siblings are not disqualified persons. Nephews and nieces are not disqualified persons. Aunts and uncles aren't disqualified persons. And so it's important to know who is and who isn't disqualified. But as we said, your IRA is not supposed to transact with those disqualified persons. Mm-hmm. So what gets to be a question is, can you go into a deal together with them? So you're not necessarily buying something from them. You're getting into a deal together. Mm-hmm. That may be doable. So if anybody has told you conclusively, and with absolute certainty that you can do it, I would be cautious. And if anybody has told you with absolute certainty that you cannot do it, I would certainly question that as well. There is definitely a very, very strong case to be made that is doable, but you cannot have 100% confidence with that. Mm. So we discourage that because even if it is doable, it certainly creates complexities. So that's not to say that we've never seen it, but we certainly discourage it.
Yeah, good tips there. Can you kind of run? I know you have mentioned pre-call as far as kind of like the costs that they can vary depending on what you're trying to do and kind of a whole bunch of stuff. But can you give us some general numbers, what people can expect? I get these questions a lot. And I'm like, I don't know. I just go on the website and check. But of course, I want to kind of ask you what your thoughts about that.
It's all over the place. And what people have to do is understand really the different components of the service, services they may need. So they're doing an apples to apples comparison. Usually what people are getting is an apples to oranges comparison. So you got to think about, if I were Dwaine, what do you think gets involved in taking a checkbook IRA? What are the different cost components? Any idea?
I figure if you set up a bank account, I mean, or do this, I mean, a couple $100, I don't know,
Okay.
$1,000.
So first, let's talk about what the components are. So there's an IRA involved. There's got to be an
Mm-hmm.
IRA custodian involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's got to cost something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do we actually achieve this control? Okay, the money's the custodian. How do we give you that money in a bank account? If you tell the custodian, hey, send it to my personal bank account, they're not going to do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? They can't do that. So how is this achieved? So there are a couple of ways to do it, but generally the way it's done and the way we're going to do it is by creating a business entity, and that business entity will have a bank account. So you've got the cost of setting up a business entity, right? So you've got your state filing fees, whatever that state filing fee is.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's actually bringing it all together. So yeah, go to a bank account, getting your bank account set up. Every step of the way can be tricky and has pitfalls for the unwary. So you've got to know. Then there's the other component of it is, okay, so who is going to guide me through this process and provide me tips at every step of the way, provide me the relationships, provide the tax expertise, and who's been here and knows about all those unknown unknowns. So those are the different things more or less that you need to pull this together, and those are your various cost components. So bring it all together. What would you say? I'm curious to hear what you toss out as a number to get it set up.
Yeah, set up an LLC, state filing fee, $150. Go to the bank. That's probably fee. And then like I said, of course, the guidance of that. So maybe $300, $400, maybe.
Okay. Now the LLC that you're setting up here is not set up as the typical LLC that you'd get if, say, you go to a LegalZoom. So it's set up a little differently, and the custodian will not fund it. If the custodian gets LegalZoom documents, they will not be funding that LLC. So they're looking for very specifically crafted documents that's going to pass their compliance and get things set up. But now that it's good to know what the cost components are. Now, getting this all set up, the cost structure for this can vary from, all in from about $600 up to several $1,000s. Now, is there any service out there that actually, whenever you compare these things, you've got to know, okay, what exactly are we getting? What do I have to be aware of? Am I getting exactly what I need? So the key thing that I encourage people to look out for is look for a service firm that is completely unbiased, that they can set you up with the QRP or an IRA. They can do a 401k LLC or a standard 401k. They can do an LLC in Colorado, Texas, Alaska, Wyoming, Nevada, New York, that they're completely, so to speak, agnostic, as to where things are going to get set up, because every investor is going to have a different structure. It's optimal. So for some people, it's going to be a Texas LLC. For some people, it may be Wyoming. For others, Colorado, some New York, California. So every investor needs to know, take stock of their personal situation and be able to say, hey, okay, this is how I want it set up based on my goals, short-term goals and long-term goals. So I'd say the key thing to be aware of is, hey, you're coming from the, so to speak, the Wall Street space where you were dealing with lots of conflicts of interest and hidden fees, and you're trying to escape that world. So when you come to the self-directed space, make sure you're working with somebody that does not have similar biases, because bias can exist anywhere. And when you want to go to self-directed space, the idea is, hey, you're freeing yourself from the shackles of those biases. So look for a provider that can help you no matter what you want to do and is not going to try to push you to one thing or another.
Yeah, very well said. So what's kind of like the process of getting started? It's bunch of forms, engagement letter, signing, and all that stuff like that. What kind of walk us through that?
So we have a very unique way of working. So we have a very simple application. So instead of having people, having to choose, are they doing IRA or 401k and do that lengthy application for one or the other, we have a very simple application. Once we get that application, which more or less collects contact info, outlines that we're going to be doing some sort of checkbook retirement account, but they don't have to commit to QRP or IRA or Roth IRA. We'll pick up the ball from there, and we'll have a very comprehensive and detailed discussion with them so that they can make an educated choice, about what's going to work best for them.
Okay, sounds good. Kind of dialing it back to kind of learn a little bit more about you. What's kind of like a typical day for you, and do you have any special morning routines?
Days are definitely begin with a very typical morning routine. It doesn't change. The kids are there every morning, and that's what it's all about. Getting them ready for school, get them out to the bus. That's what the morning routine is all about. Every day other than Sunday and Saturday.
Awesome.
But other than that, get to the office. I love what I do. I love working with investors, and I love giving people control. That's really all about the philosophy, and I'm glad to be able to empower people daily.
Awesome. Yeah, you have a lot of success, and like I said, you're very accomplished, like I said, educational wise, and like I said, through your company. What can you say you're most grateful for?
For the opportunity, for life itself. That's really it. I think everything that we do is ultimately bringing us back to just appreciating life. That's the greatest gift. And each moment is a gift, and each moment is an opportunity to enjoy it to its fullest, give to the maximum, and make the most of being here. And I think maximizing life is really about giving, because the better you feel about yourself, the better the deeds that you do, the more you're able to truly enjoy living.
Absolutely. Well said. So how do we get in contact with you?
So there are a lot of ways to actually get in contact with me. To keep it simple, I sometimes tell people, just Google Bernard Reisz. You'll find lots of stuff out there, many podcasts, obviously find our websites. And Bernard Reisz, that's Bernard is Bernard. The Reisz is Reisz. Of course, they can Google Reisz LLC or Reisz Financial. If they want to find the website, it would be 401kcheckbook.com and agentfinancial.com.
Beautiful. Bernard, it was a pleasure to speak with you, and kind of thank you for unpacking the 401k and checkbook IRA world. And like I said, I know you can go really deep, and this conversation could probably last for several hours. So I encourage people to reach out and have a conversation with you if you have any questions. Like I said, I'm tired of answering because I don't know it. So I always refer to the experts. I'm glad you for taking the time to be on this podcast and kind of enlighten our guests and kind of reach out to more people so people can get more education and take some action. So Bernard, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Have a great week, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Dwaine, thank you so much for inviting me onto the show. Great to do the show. I enjoyed it, and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. All right. Take care, my friend.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at DwaineLClarke.com, as well as find us on Facebook for more useful content and resources.